that made. That's huge.
That is
The printer outside Tandem Edition,
yeah.
the 311.
North Shore
Oh, yeah.
Signs and Graphics.
Right.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
She is
Yeah, she
And
does,
she
does
does
work for me
things
too.
fast.
Awesome.
Very fast. Yeah,
Nice.
very good.
So do you know if they're coming to the talk? They're not. Okay. So this is us, which is fine. Which is just lets me be kind of comfortable and relaxed. What Emma and Cal asked me to come talk sort of about the Tad Commons, which is I'll talk about later, but also about this sort of strange journey that got me here doing these strange projects. And sort of how I stay sane during doing all these sort of things. I've been working in the nonprofit sector for almost all my career, and what that did was I worked for the University Presses. I worked for National Academy of Sciences in the U.S., being their online publishing, running their online publishing. I was sort of an alpha geek for scholarly publishing for 15 years, and so built big, complex digital systems for purposes. But also I was doing work for something larger than myself. For University Presses, it was scholarly publishing. For National Academy of Sciences, it was like for science and rationality and sanity. And that was really fun. And it meant that when I got up in the morning, I had a reason to be going to work, not just making somebody else money. We moved here for reasons I'll talk about in a little bit. So let me make sure that I know you two, but you don't know these two. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Shelley Pick from Waz River, so just not far away. What else do you want me to say? Whatever.
Yeah, kind of. Well, that's a start.
Yeah, and I guess why I'm here is I met Michael through Tata Commons, and the reason why actually before it was Tata Commons, when it was rural carpool, and the idea that we out here in a rural area could get together and do something to help save money and help people actually save the earth, all that kind of stuff, it just made sense to me, right? So we did that, and then it's become Tata Commons and this sort of thing, and what he said here in the top, staying sane in a crazy world, I'm like, oh, I gotta hear this, right? So,
How do we do it?
yeah, I can't wait to hear this, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I'm Linton Worrell, Waz River, so Shelley and I are partners. So I'm the United Church minister in the area, so here I am, and I've heard a lot about Michael through Shelley, and so here I am. I like what you're doing.
You don't know yet, but yeah.
He knows, he does know.
That's surprise.
I'm Layla, and my family moved here from BC a few years ago. I'm just always looking for interesting things to go to, and it sounded like something like where there might be interesting people and information. And I just saw it online through a couple of friends, Suzanne and Marie.
Well, I hope it's interesting and sparks some thoughts. And you, sir? Yeah?
I'm Oscar.
All right, hi there.
I do not know why I'm here.
You had no choice. Well,
It's Mom came.
Mom made me.
All good, because it's interesting.
So you're from here. You're from Pugwash. You're from Water River. And do either of you feel a sense of hopelessness about the world, or are you hopeful that things will work out?
Sorry for laughing.
Right, and this is part of it is in your darkest hour. What do you think, or in the morning? What do you think? Because it's sort of different.
Yeah, well, I'll say that I think there have been moments where my hope has been off-kilter, like wobbling a little bit, you know what I mean? But I always sit on my best days in a place of hope because I believe that people are good and that all the people out there working for good will somehow make the world a better place. And I know that there's lots of crap out there. I don't have rosy glasses on or something, but in the midst of that, I'm remaining constantly, and so it's great to see people grappling, because I struggle with this myself.
Right.
How do you remain hopeful, right, in the midst of that? Yeah, so it's a
Absolutely.
constant everyday journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for myself, I hear a lot of people are coming to me talking about their anxiety and the stress of what's happening in the world today, and it can get overwhelming for myself to listen to these stories. But I learned it 50 years ago when I was a young social worker that change happens within local neighborhoods and communities, and the voice, an empowering voice, and so that's what's hopeful. So I see these new emerging voices from people from all over, and the hope is there, and coming together.
Good. Well, I'll get some of this out of the way, and then we'll go back in history just a little bit. So, because things are exceedingly bad. These are some of the worst ones. The first century days coming, but probably before 2030. Dolphins, the PCDs.
Yeah.
This one, the triple planetary crisis, climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, great extinction. And these safe limits being crossed was just the end of last year. I'm not going to belabor this too much, except I will. This is all Act 1. So, this is the draft of
It's not quite as
cool as we thought.
cool as you were hoping.
Yeah, that's all right.
I can be the easel and hold things if you'd like me
Really
to.
cool.
Okay.
Don't be looking at this.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Yep.
This is the date at which the Earth has gone beyond its resources.
Oh wow.
And this is August, and that's for the world.
Yeah.
That's not even just for the North America. If you do North America, it's much more in the May, April. We're using 1.75 Earths per year right now, so by the best estimates.
I've heard it said that Nova Scotia in particular, we need 2 Earths.
Or
Part of the way,
Yeah.
part of that is food, because we don't grow enough food.
Right.
Right.
Food
It's a really
security
big
matters
piece, Which
tremendously.
is a silly statistic when you live in a
Rural
rural
area,
agricultural
right.
province, but regardless.
So one of the things that this is talking about is the varieties of limits that we're reaching. We did pretty well with stratospheric ozone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, back in the day.
Aerosol loading is beginning to decline because we no longer have smokestacks gushing out and stuff. Ocean acidification is on its way out of the same place. Are you familiar with ocean acidification? This CO2 gets absorbed by the ocean.
Dead ocean.
Freshwater change. This one they don't have enough data yet. Land systems, being used for agriculture. Climate change is going this direction. Biogeochemical flows. This is nitrogen, carbon fixation, nitrogen fixation, phosphorus. Those sorts of things are going into the purple. Introduction of novel entities, sort of black swans, and the change in the just overall integrity.
I'm sorry, go back to novel entities. Can you
Yeah.
define a couple, give a couple
so-
examples? What are novel entities?
So I think they mean plastics.
Oh.
The layer of plastic that we're
Okay.
laying all over the
Right.
earth, the PCBs, the forever chemicals,
Okay.
those sort of things. So those are like just
I'll get out of the way. I haven't seen that chart.
worse
before.
than ever. So I said I'd go back in time. Back in 2007, my buddy and I, my best friend in the world, decided to do a project. Decided to do a project to try to sort of make up the world as some of the things that were happening at the time. So we created a website. Yeah, pocket.
That's hilarious.
And for 7 years, did daily, I'll use that one, did daily updates of stories that were happening in the world and making a joke about them. And so we stopped in 2015 because Trump won the presidency. And that was like, okay, we're giving up now. But we were professional doom scrollers for this 7 years. One of the biggest fisheries in the world is on the verge of collapse.
Oh, yeah.
The quip is, I was told there were plenty of fish in the comments. I won't go into them all. And we wrote a book. We kept trying everything we could. Just look at it. You don't need to read it.
Yeah.
But we were like trying to break through. What? Surely people are like, people won't just keep on turtling. Surely they'll figure out more about this. Part of what we did was we built tools to be able to explore how awful things were, which was, kind of fun.
Apocometer.
This is the apocometer, yeah. So these are the terms that we assigned, the tags we gave. Holy cow, climate impacts, faster than expected, Arctic meltdown, global warming, the apoc number of the most recent stories. Here's the panda cloud. So the panda cloud was just all those terms, which lists how many stories were on these various topics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just stunning, and it got more and more horrible as we were going through this.
What's anthropogenic?
Anthropogenic is human caused.
Change.
Right. So, people very back during that period, they were trying to figure out kind of to prove the deniers, because we thought that we could talk the deniers into sense. Anyway, so that's the panda cloud. We also had the panda quiz. We had other things we were trying to do to be kind of entertaining as well as educational. So here's faster than expected.
Yeah.
New study confirms water vapor is a global amplifier. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Physics. Yeah, physics. Wintertime maximum, lowest ever. Talk about opportunities for improvement.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were doing this three times a day, 4 times a day, more than 8,600 stories over time.
Wow.
So it was really challenging to stay upbeat. It helped to have pleasure. It helped to be doing all these things. But these were some of the things that I talked about to myself while I was in a 15-year depression as I was confronting these things. Nothing really changes, nothing I can do to stop it. Let's not talk about that. I stopped getting invited to parties because I was such a bummer. Because do you know about acidification?
Yeah.
It's really hard not to want to shake people and talk about these things. And it's also what society has kind of been doing as well, is saying an awful lot of these things. What's the point? Surely technology things. But we've also been taught to be powerless by our society. I can't do anything about it. All my job is to buy things. So. That's right. I can't hear you. So I had to confront some things in myself to figure out a bunch of stuff. What can I do so I'm not totally depressed all the time? And I wasn't like walking around being Eeyore, but I was definitely.
If you want the truth.
Oh, you didn't introduce yourself.
You didn't give me the opportunity. You went
true.
right. I was like,
You're right. What about me? You joined late. So why don't you? Go ahead.
my name's Susan Stephen, and I'm Michael's partner. And obviously, I've been next to him as he's gone through many of these processes, although not all, because for a period of time I lived here and he still lived in the States. So some portion of the depression may have begun there, but in any case, I'm trained as a I won't remember the name now. I went to Al Gore's project conference, and I've been trained as a presenter for climate for him, and so it's obviously a joint interest in our family. So
Yeah.
but
So Act 2. This is the second part. Is really looking at this and trying to figure out what kinds of questions are. And the questions that I face, what can I do? What am I best at doing? What's the best use of my particular skills, capabilities, talents? How shall I spend the last decade of my one wild and precious life? I don't know if you know the Mary Oliver.
Mary
right?
Oliver's poem, yeah.
Wonderful poem.
Wild Beast.
Anyway,
Yeah, beautiful.
and I have grown up in a period of privilege. This is a 50-year span that has had nothing but growth and wonder. And I'm living in North America. I'm white. I'm male. I haven't had to fight any strong fights except like whether I cut my hair or not. You know, it's just like I've never been hungry daily. So that's a privilege, and that creates a responsibility, it seems to me. And that responsibility needs to be addressed. And then, how do I think in new ways? I was blessed in college to go hear Buckminster Fuller talk. You know Buckminster Fuller? Amazing mind.
Amazing.
And he was 2 or something like that at this time. And he was a little tiny guy, this gnomish character. He's the one that invented the geodesic dome, invented a whole sort of way of thinking about design and practicality, amazing engineer. But when he was in his early 20s, he had come to a place where he was literally, he said, on this huge stage, talking to all of us, he was literally on the bridge, ready to jump off, because his family life was in chaos, he had lost his job, he was broke, he was going to be, so he was on the bridge, ready to go. He said, okay, well that's kind of a waste, really. I should do something else. How can I rethink my position in the world? How can I reorient myself in this world? And he when we get down to the basics, there's up and there's down. How can I challenge that? Well, honestly, we're in a little tiny oar in this vast space. So that is how, not up. This is him. And, that kind of puts us in a larger context, just out into the space, the universe. And so I wanted to get down to that kind of level of rethinking what I was doing in the world and how I could do these things, and kind of go back and think about the stuff that I love doing. And I had spent a bunch of time on our farm. We had a farm, trying to be sustainable, trying to be self-sufficient, and did that for a decade until we aged out, wore out, and ran out of money. And I went back to work, and I had to work for like a corporation, and it was unpleasant. Anyway, I was able to retire and address the things that seem to be necessary and important. And this is a truth that became clear to me, is that small communities don't have software. Just don't. Because it's not a big business. It's not, you can't make jillions of it. It's not something that Silicon Valley wants to pay attention to. They want to be world dominating. They don't want to assist little tiny communities, which is like really how we live. We are tribal. We are people who have communities. So when I began building, first I tried to do the rural carpool for a variety of reasons, having to do with aliens, the stranger danger, and people being scared of this, because it's a big leap. Suddenly have strangers in your car. I shifted to a more community model, and have been, with my small software team, building these tools to help communities have an infrastructure. So we have the ability to do carpools. We also have a common calendar. All the businesses of Commons and also Ferdinand down in southern Indiana. I got some funding to try it down there. We got 240 members in Commons and 140 and change in Ferdinand at this point. All the businesses of the region, places to confer and discuss. It has been interesting to be seeing how people respond to it, because it is a coherent whole, and I've just spent 5 minutes explaining it to you, 3 minutes explaining it to you, and you still don't know what it is, right?
Right. Yep.
It doesn't. You can't really explain. It doesn't have an elevator, which doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it takes people a little while to get over kind of what is it? So I'm taking the best little part and turning it into a standalone local envelopes, because what we all have are garages or attics or basements, and we have stuff sitting there doing nothing, gathering dust. We would be happy to loan it to our friend. We would be happy if we knew that they wanted it. We'd be happy to loan it to probably a stranger. But really, a member of my community, I will share it with. I will loan it. What I don't have a good tool for is keeping track of what I've loaned, to whom, on what date, when they said to give it back to me, all that kind of business. This grew out of me wanting to loan out musical instruments, because I have a collection. How do I loan out my cello? Do I, learn on this, and then decide whether you want it? Same thing with violins and banjos. But how do I keep track of spreadsheet? Anyway, we are about 3 weeks away from being able to launch this for any small community. Is that right? Yeah. So for your church, for example, literally, it could be your church, or a HOA, a housing association, or it could be a temple, or it could be your group for that matter. There needs to be some superstructure. You need to have a manager. You need to have a board of advisors or something to help get it rolling, and to participate in this stuff. And I'll have a demo in a few weeks. We've got the architecture working in our Commons demo, which is great. Anyway, throughout this, these are just symptoms of my disease. Throughout this, I've been able to use it as medicine, because when I start spiraling down and start going into the black hole, I could get up and go do something useful with this project, because this project might do something useful for the world. It could change some small communities. It could be the gateway drug to the commons, because once you have the community, then you start, we can share rides too. Oh gosh, we can, there's a whole lot of possibilities. So small communities, co-ops, folks like that, and this has been my medicine. And I think the point of this conversation is that we all need some kind of medicine. So these are the bigger topics, the necessary conversation. How do we change our ecocide? The ecocide we're doing, that's a huge. How do we build an alternative to consumer capitalism? And this is something which you could argue the local lendables actually does, because we don't need to have a zillion wetbacks. We need to have one, because for the most part, you use it once a year. You use various tools, various folding chairs, various whatever, once a month. Why not? Anyway, so we don't need to buy that stuff from China or the United States or whatever, because we as a community have so much that we can, it becomes an alternative to consumer capitalism. But kind of Canada, what are the preconditions for making those kind of changes? And the preconditions really are having, seems to me, to be having people, able to participate and engage in the world.
Willing.
Missing
I
one.
think the word willing is important.
Here we go.
Because so many of us hesitate to commit to these things, to say,
Correct.
oh, I want to be a member. I'm willing to put myself out there and loan out all my property.
And so, the final thing is really what we'll maybe talk about. Local change, what are the preconditions? What shall we do next, but also each of us? What is your responsibility living the privileged life that we live here? And what can we do to, as I say, be guilt-free? I was saying this to Lynn earlier, that it's much easier for me to live in the world and not feel guilty about every light that every long shower that I'm taking,
Every plastic bottle you might have to buy.
that's right, plastic bag, the gasoline to come here, whatever. All these things, I just feel less guilty if I'm working to try to shift things. And so that becomes the medicine for my melancholy. That becomes it is working for something larger than myself. And this, for me, this mattered. I was able to retire and focus. I was lucky that way. But I didn't. But each of us, how shall we spend those last decades of our lives? Because we have children. We have people who we want to leave remembering us with kindness, and not saying, "Oh yeah, they used up the world," which is what we're doing. We're just using it for. So I'm not saying that each of us has to do this level, the local lendable sort of thing, but I think that we can volunteer, we can participate in a committee, we can call our representatives, we can just, it's part of, where's my missing one? Well, what's that? Yeah.
You're missing something, some conclusion?
Is this a smaller one?
No, these are the ones that fell.
It's not a conclusion, though. It's a comparison and contrast of the horrors of part of the necessary confrontation. We have been individualists for way too long.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is probably communitarian. No. I don't know.
What are you looking for? Here's his last page.
Or a different page. So I'll just walk through them. It's okay.
Sure.
So part of what I was confronting is individualism, personal sustainability, how rich can I get so I don't have to worry, and retire effectively, whatever. I should own my own property. It's just a presumption that we have built into the last 40, 50 years. It's not the case in small town North America, but it is now. And that's what social media teaches us. Try to get as much as I can. Empathy is for losers. We've heard that from the richest guy in the world, right?
That's right.
Our economic role is to consume. That's our job. It's not to build, participate, engage. It's just to eat it up. And the distillation of that is the prepper. The person who wants to be totally autonomous. I don't need your electricity. I can feed myself. I have a year's worth of food in my larder. And that survivalism is very self-interested, and that's kind of what we were moving initially to. We'll be off-grid, we'll be able to grow our own food, we won't need this world that we wanted to kind of cut away from. But what I feel like we need to shift to is more communitarian instead of individualistic. We have a tribal sustainability. Our community needs to be sustainable, not just myself. I can borrow, I can co-own, I can share. Try to get as much as I can. I just want to be happy. If I have these things, I don't need that many things, really. Empathy is for losers. Well, actually, kindness is best. Period. And participation is the economic role that I think we need to have, because we have been trained by television, by various other kinds of media. And so maybe turn off television, but maybe the internet too. But to participate in our community is different than waiting. And this is one of the challenges we have with the commons, is participating is not our habit. We wait for somebody else to show us the calendar, somebody else to offer something, to present something. So anyway, that's those are the things that I think we need to be moving to. But are there things that, well, there are various choices that we've been making as we've been putting this house together. Other things, each of us have plenty of opportunities. Like I said, I wanted to sort of open it up and say, so what should you do? What do you do that you feel like is part of this movement to a saner world? Is there anything?
And I would also say being very careful of the word should.
Oh yeah, right.
And not what should you do, but what are you able to do?
What can you do?
And what can you do?
Right.
And how can you partner with others to make that happen more effectively? I don't know. It's the first time I've heard this presentation, so
So when it comes to our response to this trauma, right?
Right.
And something that science tells us is that our responses to stress is fight, flight, and now we know we have another response, which is freeze.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
that's right. Yeah.
And so, and I think that freeze response is somehow related to our fear center. You know, so we live our lives in fear and we're just kind of paralyzed. And then I have this other thing in my head that reminds me, fear is cured by action. Right? And so again, but then it comes back to what you said. What are we able to act? Like, we can't overwhelm ourselves saying, oh, I have to go here and I should do this and I have to do that. But how can I just steadily change my thinking? Somehow, this is my intention. How can I live into that? And if I step back and realize, like, I have to forgive myself and just keep, you know, how can I sort of stop myself from getting frozen and stuck, right?
Right. Well, and should is what creates guilt.
Yeah.
If you're not doing what you should do.
yeah.
And that is something which I'm trying to.
Right. But of course we all have it because the crisis is so enormous.
It's so enormous because we're always using plastic. We have to use plastic. I mean, whatever. It's just like, it's so hard. But
So what can we do? right?
Right,
Instead
right.
of, oh, what can we do? What is possible? And so what I love about what you've started is what you can do.
Whatever it is, right?
And then you've invited other people,
Yeah.
like even putting on this talk is an invitation, right? To say, well, here's my course. Where, you know, if you want to join in, if you want to, you know, help you out here, right? So I love that.
It's also to accept our vulnerability, because put ourselves, stand tall for what we believe for social justice. We're talking about, we're criticized. You know, whether you're a minister preaching on a Sunday morning or you're a citizen.
Right.
So,
Don't get political.
Or standing on the
Yeah.
corner with your son.
or that,
Right.
right.
Right?
So to find ways in how you can embrace your vulnerability, which is challenging. You know, who wants to feel vulnerable?
That's
Right.
right.
I've been really interested in like offering something to the community since moving here, and I've tried a few different things, and it can be really frustrating when people don't like participate more when you're trying to offer something really great. Like, for example, I teach hula hoop dance, and I bought like all the hula hoops and like provided it all for free. Like, I'm gonna teach you. I have all the equipment, and I'm gonna do it every week. And then like some people came out, but yeah, it just gets kind of discouraging when there isn't more like response and like
Right.
people engaging with it.
What did you offer?
In Oxford,
Oh,
and also Northport. But I've done
Where
a few-
else?
Northport Beach and Oxford. But like I feel like I keep trying to do stuff like this to kind of build community, and then it just feels like you put a lot of energy in, and then people are just busy with their own lives or whatever.
Right.
no, you're right.
And you also suffer from being from away.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are from away, and we've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
We will always be from away.
Yeah.
And
People
that
will say
CFA.
immediately,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are
you're
too.
from the States, aren't you?
is, right. It's like, what did I say? Is there a sign up here?
One of the interesting things when the Commons was first being introduced, in fact, actually, even when the carpool was being introduced, is one of the driving phrases Michael was always using was self-organized. This is self-organized. You have to do it.
Right.
So it didn't happen. You know,
Yeah.
one or two people carpool regularly
Yeah.
through the carpool service.
Yeah.
Mostly not. I didn't jump on you, but
No,
I-
it's exactly right.
I find though people still want to be spoon-fed.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that was created.
it's been a long time we've been
No.
being spoon
That's
fed.
right. Yeah. I mean, even in my church, they want to be taught how to want me to teach them how to think who this Jesus is and who this God is and all that. No, think for yourself.
Don't you have
Explore
any
that for
ideas of
yourself.
your own?
Right, exactly.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
Well, and because that works so well for the oligarchs, I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's really a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge to have the entire world's money against you. Because
Yeah.
that's, you know, the money wants to have the money, and the money wants to make us powerless.
Yeah, that's right.
And they have hollowed out the middle class kind of purposely. And so there's fewer people who have the resources to actually take a day and demonstrate. Amazing. But, so we are either consciously or unconsciously taught to be passive and to wait for the spoon. That's just a very interesting time.
What's the new slogan we have in the end of church? Bold.
Don't expect me to remember.
I'm trying to think now.
Oh, yeah.
Bold spirituality, daring justice,
Yes.
deep spirituality. Yeah, something. Yeah, and we're really trying to promote that. And
Yeah.
and we're going to be talking a lot about at our AGM coming up. this
Which
month.
church are you with?
United Church of
Yeah.
Canada. Yeah.
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 Daring justice.
Daring
I
justice.
love that.
Yeah, and really to promote that. But I find when every Sunday when I do a land acknowledgement, we had our hands in the you know the schools,
Genocide.
genocide. Yeah.
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 People put their heads down. Not everybody, but
Yeah.
the people put their head don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
or if I talk about what we've done to the LGBTQ plus community, don't want to hear that.
Don't want to hear about racism.
Don't want to hear about any of that.
Yeah.
So to find ways in how to speak find a language and how to speak from the pulpit or from whatever meetings, whatever,
Yeah.
has its challenges and that, but
Sure.
that's why I brought up vulnerability.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I think it's absolutely true.
And then though, you surround yourself with the like-minded.
That's the other problem.
Catherine Anderson.
Yeah.
Right.
Is my hero. You know,
Right.
who went to Sharon United. Now she's living somewhere else. But she really promotes social justice. She's a mentor and a model.
Yeah,
Huge.
she is.
Huge.
Tireless.
Yeah.
Tireless.
Yeah.
Tireless.
Yes.
I know. But yeah. Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
but also, some people are like, that's too much.
Yeah.
You take me off your list.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
She's fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
And so, we all should. And he's been great. Honestly, amazing. Good patience.
And also too, I'll just add, because we have a young fellow here, but from my experience I was with the Canadian Forces for a bit and done a lot of work with cadets between 12 and 18, and as a chaplain, and to listen to the voice. If you listen to our youth and you listen to our young folks, it can teach us a whole lot
Yeah.
about what's going on. And that's been my experience with,
That's right.
with that age group.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So I'm welcome to hear your voice anytime.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
Anything
Right?
else?
I know. Don't drag me into this.
Hey,
I know, right?
I have to talk?
No, but it's important though to us to encourage voice, no matter what age we are, to respect those new emerging voices that are coming forward.
You're the minister at Cardamom Bush Church?
Yeah, Sharon United. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your name?
Linton World.
Yeah, well, we've corresponded on email. We live on the same road. You're on the 311 loop?
Yeah. Oh, we're neighbors.
Isn't that like-
When you go past
She
my
came
house,
right
you'll
to
see
Island.
the green Nova Scotia first, water
Yeah,
on both sides,
yeah.
the yellow house.
Okay. All right. Good.
Cool.
You go by my house.
I know your house because I
Sorry?
know the people, I know the women that were living.
Oh, Penny and
there.
Nicole.
Oh, yeah,
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Small world,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice to be a neighbor.
Sorry, I didn't, like Julie, I didn't have you introduce yourself when I had Susan.
Well, I came in late,
Yeah, well, you should not be punished for that.
Yeah.
but it's darn cold.
It's wet.
And there are no chairs in the cafe?
It's very small.
It's very small. There's a lot of health code issues, I guess, and
Yeah.
all that stuff in there.
I'm gonna go and get warm.
Yeah.
Well, you go do that, you got
Yeah.
15 minutes,
Yeah.
and then we'll be here for your,
Oh,
so that you
Oh,
have a
if you
little
want
bit of an
to.
audience.
yeah, well, don't worry.
No, seriously.
Go and see if they have a coffee.
That's
Yeah,
right, we
yeah.
all got copies.
Yeah.
I don't see the time.
So Michael, you have this on your computer. Is there
I
any
do.
way
So
I can
when
get a
you
copy of
do
these
your own
slides?
do you have to rent
Yeah,
that place?
I would just,
How
that would
does
be
that-
very
like, do you have
interesting
to-
to present to
yeah, how's that
the
work for you?
So far, I've done it
Oh, yeah.
outside
Because
in the
depression
nice
is related
seasons,
to
and
so
then
many
I did get like a free room to use in Oxford Arena for a while
Okay. Yeah.
last year.
So,
But I'm always looking for another indoor space that's bigger because I could
You
only
have my
fit like
email.
5 people in that one.
I do.
Dale Skinner. You know that name? Okay,
I
Dale
just
Skinner
need to make sure that I
here
do it on my
United
calendar.
Yeah,
Church
because you have to remember to do it, like me, I have to remember.
in Pugwash, yeah.
he just
One
puts,
thing.
guy,
he
very
puts
progressive
everything in his
thinking.
calendar.
Increasingly.
And, good luck with
Increasingly,
something
like
that.
just random things, don't
yeah,
forget to file the
Contact the
taxes.
minister.
In his
Dale
calendar,
is
like,
his
doesn't
name.
matter what day, just put it
If
on.
you want to
fairly
put that on,
soon.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. Look at the name of the United Church here.
Whatever works,
Yeah, right.
right? And I
But
think
it's,
the
yeah,
way our
and there's
society
space
is,
in
we
their hall.
all need to use
Yeah,
memory.
and they're open
I
to
don't care if you
possibilities
It's true.
and all that stuff.
It's
So,
true.
Yeah.
Hold on.
There's so much,
Oh,
so much
Yeah,
complications.
yeah,
have
yeah.
options.
And I'm always, Annika sends me
What
texts, she
browser?
says, this thing
Like
happened
housing
today, remind me,
is
because I talk to her every
Victoria,
morning.
BC is
And by the time
Oh,
morning
can
comes
never
around,
buy
she's
Beautiful
not
though.
remember the things she wanted
Yeah,
to tell
I
me.
know,
So she just
I
sends
yeah,
me a
you're right.
text, I say, okay, here's the
We
list
just kind of
today.
looked all over
Yeah.
Don't
Canada
forget
for
to
somewhere
tell
we
me
could
what
afford to
your
live.
professor
Yeah,
said.
yeah, you're all right,
So,
yeah.
nice
You
nature.
Yeah.
know,
And
I was
do
like,
you
she just came up
telecommute
with
or?
this
It's
tool.
working.
I sell my art online on Etsy,
Again,
and then we
smart
homeschool the
enough
kids.
Like
We
she's
have free
self-aware,
kids, so.
Yeah.
so trying to
Yeah, we did that with
Yeah.
various
And that's what
children.
you would do
very
with
similar.
your keep
Yeah, so we have lots of flexibility with that.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
So
goodness she
you're,
still
you're a
has
painter?
that.
I draw like mainly like nature illustrations, and
Oh,
then I sell
wow.
them as digital downloads.
Oh, cool.
Digital downloads.
Yeah.
Imagine having that conversation.
Yeah.
Never thought in my life I would have digital downloads. Times have changed.
Someone can buy a drawing for like $4, but
Yeah.
then I can have like hundreds or thousands of people buy the same drawing.
Right.
Right.
So,
Oh,
What
that's
makes
very
sense. Totally
cool,
makes sense.
yeah.
So how do we figure get your site? Do you have a card on you or?
I don't think I have one on me,
Yeah.
but if you want to Google the name, it's La Rose Art Studios on Etsy. If you just Google like La Rose Art Studios
LA?
Etsy.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
I might have seen you on there.
Oh yeah. Look at us. Look at us.
Oh, the phones.
That's how you do it.
La
Then you don't
Rose?
lose it.
Yeah, LA space Rose
And Rose.
Art
okay.
Studios Etsy.
Nice. So somebody else I know, and you may do this also, does drawings, digital stuff that is just outlines, and then they can be used in classrooms as coloring pages for children. It's a really interesting. It works really well. I was a dance teacher for years, and I would download pictures of dancers, particular positions, or and because I can't draw.
Yeah, mine are all just outlines as well, so people use them for all kinds of things, like logos or
Right.
designs
Perfect.
on products.
And then actually you're selling enough to like make it worthwhile to keep on selling. Good for you.
No.
Okay, that's not yes. Okay, I got
Art
Rose.
Studios.